and welcome back to Generic Sport Podcast. I'm your host, the Goose, Josh.
And I'm John.
Today we're going to talk about the NFL head coaching changes of the for the 2024 season. Well, first, you know us, we love the NFL. Second, we just got a lot of ideas, and we thought this was the most concrete of podcasts to do right now. But we are going to talk about the NBA, the NHL, a couple other things, just kind of a general news podcast coming up because, unlike other shows, we don't have to analyze the Super Bowl for like 10 days straight before the Super Bowl because we're going to overanalyze it and it's just not going to be as fun.
And hell, even the other members of the media are asking dumb questions to the quarterbacks because you're doing this for how many days?
Right? I mean, it's not like, there's like, it's fun. Maybe it's better for like some of the local media and stuff. But honestly, it's just like, I'm ready for the game. So, and just like these other teams, like they gotta put on stuff and get ready for their next season because there is no off season in any sport. I mean, not when you're like in a manager or anything. Like, sure, even if you're a player, you can take a month off from your diet or and or a couple months, but you don't want to completely get out of shape in the off season. So, but this is management time. This is coaching time, business time, all of that stuff. So
yeah, some players might be going on vacation. Players and coaches might be going on vacation, but they're still like the players. They still have to train and get ready for next season.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start this podcast off with an interesting thought. Well, I'll build up to it. Let's go with that. So the Commanders, like I'll just say the teams that the Commanders fired Ron Rivera. The Titans fired Mike Vrabel. Arthur Smith got fired. Pete Carroll moved up for in a nice way of saying with the Seahawks, but not head coaching.
Got Bruce Arians, something like that.
And then you had and Bill Belichick got mutually parted ways with Patriots, or whatever you want to say about that. And during the season, Brandon Staley from the Chargers got fired, and Josh McDaniels was the first coach to be fired from the Vegas Raiders. So those are all the vacancies, and I will say with Bill Bel, I bring it up this way because the most surprising thing is that Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick don't have a head coaching job in this in the 2024 season. And personally speaking, I think they are equally as big in different ways because Mike Vrabel led a team to an AFC Championship game. He's a former player. He's like we all love Dan Campbell. Well, Mike Vrabel is the same energy, same kind of coach. Former player, learning head coaching, going through the so there's a lot of that same energy, same style in and I've heard somebody, one of the GMs at I think it might have been the Senior Bowl or Pro Bowl or something like that said they just didn't want like Mike Vrabel was very intimidating, and I'm just like, isn't that kind of what you want in a head coach in some ways? Like somebody, like why does it matter if he's intimidating to like front office people? Like, isn't that something that you want to I remember I'm blinking on his name but our middle school PE teacher, like I thought he had like the same like vibes, like but he was one of the nicest. Like I could actually talk to him. Was he intimidating for 11-year-old me? Yeah, but he was easy. But he was one of my favorite teachers that I could talk to, especially about sports, and just kind of trying to feel comfortable at the age of being in a locker room, kind of during gym, and not being used to that for the first like 11 years of my life. So
I think it depends on how the front office might have been, if the front office wasn't comfortable talking to him, if they didn't have a good relationship, if they were too scared to talk to him, then that just shows a lot of the problems of the Titans.
Well, not just the Titans, but it's a lot of, it wasn't just them. I think it's a few teams. So I think honestly, I think some of these these. I'm interested to see which team didn't go in that direction and said, said no, because like I don't know. It's like I like Dan Quinn, but like I'm thinking to myself like is it because he made it to a Super Bowl versus Mike Vrabel? Like Mike Vrabel had like a bad year and a half, but it wasn't like the team ever gave up on him. I just don't think that there was good drafting, and you got rid of AJ Brown, and didn't really accomplish much. So like I'm truly surprised he didn't go somewhere.
And that, granted, I don't know why he wasn't hired, like because I think any team would be great to have him. I'm glad like the Dolphins don't need to worry about playing him next year after what he did to us this year. But I just don't get. I mean, unless like he was too dominant of a personality, but I know some players like respond to that. So I really don't get it unless like everyone was just knowing who they wanted to hire, like they had a certain one, and like just Mike Vrabel didn't fit that mold. And I'm definitely sure he'll get a job next coaching season.
I'm sure he will. I think it's stupid because your game is a prime example. I don't think they had a shot at the playoffs when they beat you, but they didn't give up, and they were down 2 scores and completely ruined your season basically.
Well, and reasons why I'm happy Vic Fangio is no longer our defensive coordinator. Exhibit A.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of things wrong with that game, but anyways, we don't have to talk about Mike McDaniel either, so because I question a couple things on him, but he's still a good head coach.
He needs to improve he needs to improve in areas. I'm not saying letting him go scot free, but he does need to improve, or else we will be talking about maybe we might be talking about new head coaches for the Dolphins again, and I don't want to. I grew up too many years with that in the 2000s.
Right. So with that being said, Bill Belichick is also a surprise. I've heard that Arthur Blank liked Bill Belichick. The GM, obviously, I don't know, didn't like it. Maybe he was looking for his job too, but I don't know if Bill Belichick wanted more power. I mean, you have 2 interviews there for a reason. I just don't know. I mean, they were a quarterback away, but there are a few quarterbacks out there that you just get, and you build a good defense, and you can win the NFC South.
The problem is that can you trust Bill Belichick to find another quarterback if he wanted the GM powers?
I think that's where maybe you tell him no, but I don't know all the details. Like it's too hard to speculate.
Yes. But if he wanted the GM powers, I could see why the like Falcons hire the other Falcons like general manager, like other front office people didn't want Bill Belichick. And I think Bill Belichick, if Bill Belichick just wants to be a coach, I think he'll be fine. But I don't know, like because we've been questioning, like, is Bill Belichick still a good head coach lately? And I think he's a fantastic defensive coordinator, but I'm not sure how much as a head coach because I don't know if he has the right offensive
I think
coordinator.
He can be a leader of men. I think that's the big thing about it. And I'll be honest with you, this kind of leads into the next subject, and we're going to get to the head coaches here soon, but I think it's important to talk about like what didn't happen, and the fact that honestly I'm more surprised, as surprised as I am that those 2 didn't get head coaching jobs. I'm surprised that the vacancies weren't there for them in the Eagles and the Cowboys, and I think that's important to talk about because the Eagles are keeping Nick Sirianni but replaced both coordinators.
And honestly, Nick Sirianni might be gone sooner with the coordinators he hired because I don't trust these 2.
Well, first of all, I feel like he lost the locker room somewhere along the line because there was something, everything wasn't clicking, and if things were clicking before and the coordinator's like I don't know, like part of me feels like there's part of the coordinators and then there's part of the head coach. But if you got to replace the coordinators anyways, why are we just not resetting everything? Because now you're just if it fails, you're going to reset everything anyway. So, like, are we sure like, unless the players really spoke up for him in exit interviews with the GM and said, like, no, it was the coordinators, like, there was something wrong with who he picked and stuff. Like, he might get a second chance with that. But then you question yourself, like you were saying about, now we get into the coordinators, and, like, well, I think we got to start with the bigger deal of Kellen Moore is the bigger deal, because everybody's like, oh, he's an offensive genius. But is he? Because, first of all, the Chargers didn't win many games, and you can, say that Staley's defense didn't really deliver. And while that's true, Herbert had a down year in general. Like, he didn't have a great season compared to the seasons before, where everybody was like, oh, Kellen Moore and Justin Herbert, like, that's gonna be great. Like, and we saw, like, and to further the evidence on that, Dak Prescott, without Kellen Moore, had his best statistical season. He was in the MVP. He's in the MVP candidate. He's a top MVP candidate. So I'm just like, so the proof is there as far as, like, I mean, maybe Jalen Hurts will be better, and they just needed something better than last year.
I don't know. Do they need to run the ball?
Yes.
I know Kellen Moore was, like, supposedly they were complaining that he was running the ball too much, wanted to run the ball or something like that. And Austin Eckler also sucked, or had a down year too. I think he was, I forget if he was injured part of the way, but still, he had a down year too. Like, I don't, like, Kellen Moore, I feels like, okay, you're going to have the weapons. So the Eagles have a lot of everything. So you have the weapons, just show if you're good, just prove it. Otherwise, the Eagles are going to crap out worse than they did this season.
Yeah. Now, as far as Vic Fangio goes, it was surprising that it was surprising in some ways of what he did, and that he was only a 1 year in the Dolphins. You've said, like, players have come out to speak against him, and that there was not a lot of likability. And as him being the former Broncos head coach, I don't know if they spoke, and maybe it was different as a head coach versus as a defensive coordinator. But I know we spoke about it for a while. Like, you didn't have a lot of draft picks, but your top draft pick in the second round didn't even play.
Yeah, well, so yeah, Cam Smith, like, apparently pissed him off or something and was held out the entire freaking season. Like, yeah, that and we could have used him, especially. I swear he could have been better than Eli Apple, or just for depth purposes. He could have, like, at least tried, like, even when Cater Coho was struggling.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you piss him off, like, okay, sure, like, maybe move him down, make him earn his his spot. Maybe he did something, but is it because did he piss you off because of something he said, or he doesn't have the talent? If he doesn't have the talent, he wasn't going to go in the second round. But you don't know this because you're not playing him, and to get better and to see, you need play time, and the fact that he didn't get play time is asinine to me. And honestly, that's one of those things where, in my mind, as the head coach, I'm wondering, and my GM, I'm wondering, why the hell isn't this guy playing Vic? What's the problem? And no, I'm sorry, you're not. You might be the head of the defense, but you're not A, the head coach, and B, the GM that we invested this draft pick in. So somebody in the Dolphins needed to speak up. I'm glad he's gone for your sake, but this is one of those other things about, like, I don't think we talk about with some of the coaching criticism here. I like Mike McDaniel, but, like, somebody needed to speak up when you were having when Cater Coho was getting beat, and Savian Howard was getting beat on some of those too. Why?
Well, Xavier was injured, I think, for a good part.
Still, but that's even a worse reason, if he was injured, for Cam Smith to not be playing. So somebody was not doing their job.
Well, to be fair, I don't know how much, like, I know Mike McDaniel says, like, rush cornerbacks sometimes can be, like, he said something like he treats them like quarterbacks, that they don't need to be rushed into things. And granted, that's fair, but it definitely feels like said Vic did not like Cam Smith. Like all the Dolphins players are like, we're posting on Twitter and happy Vic's gone. I mean, I know so many of the Broncos players said the same thing, that they were happy he was gone as the head coach. I mean, if players really liked him, you think we would have gotten maybe more any of the Bears players or any of the Broncos players. Maybe we could have tried to trade it for more help.
Same when he was with us too. So
you were right, and it's very odd that and waiting on the tampering investigation for Philly on him, because he was hired the day after he was fired. Like he had like 1 foot out the door, that he really didn't want to be here. But still, like his defense is like, I know like our defense improved, yes, but at key times his defensive schemes were not better than last year's defense at times.
But still, I get one thing I will criticize about Mike McDaniel there is players were injured or not doing their job to their best. Maybe throw him in a few, some snaps. I mean, how do you not have him play against the Broncos when you were up by 50?
I don't know if he didn't play at all, or he only played like 20 snaps on defense this season. He mainly played on specials.
Oh, okay.
So he played very little.
20 snaps is like...
It's like half a game.
Yeah, that might even be... I don't... That's quarter of a game, honestly.
Yeah, that's not a lot. Still.
But that's too light, I feel like. Especially when there were sometimes you were struggling or...
Yeah, he deserved the chance to try to see if he would have helped. Like, we don't know what kind of player he is, and that's the thing. And I hope he breaks out this season for us. Let me definitely specify for us. But yeah, but Vic Fangio's defenses are seemingly like top 10, like seemingly very high. So Vic's defense, does get up better, but it also I think will be worse in certain situations, and I think the Eagles might end up being worse because of him at times.
I don't know if they can be worse. I think they were they can by being from, I think they were like 31 versus like 32. So they can be worse, but I don't think it's going to be, that worse. So
it's going it might be a little more heartbreaking, but I think it's going to be the same level as the Dolphins were. It's going to look good, but it's going to look good at times, but it's going to be, when you really examine it, it's not as good as it looks. And how all Vic Fangio defenses have been. Right.
So we'll see. At least those last 6 games, we'll see where they are. I'm going to say that they at least get somewhat better and probably just rank wherever around where Miami was this season. So
they could get better on defense, but they might get worse at offense. So who knows?
I don't even know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Nick Sirianni and if he's going to be still there in 2025.
All right, we'll see what the future holds for him.
All right, so moving on.
Yep, that's pretty good on the Dolphins and Vic Fangio.
Well, the Eagles.
And the Eagles too.
I was going to say, this was about new head coaches. The Dolphins, we can talk about them later. Yeah. As far as they didn't make the big move. So Vic Fangio being a big coordinator going to the Eagles was the big thing here.
Yeah, we got a new coordinator, but we can talk about that.
Yeah. So moving on.
Yep.
All right. So we'll start with the first guy to get the new job, which was and the quickest turnaround was Gerard Mayo.
We'll get his name correct as we go forward.
Well, we've known Gerard, we've known Gerald, we've known a lot of people. So, but Gerard Mayo, I think I don't want to say too much good or bad. I like it for New England because it could just be the Patriot way and him continuing Bill's style of coaching, but in the sense of that building knows how to do it and people know what to expect, but adding his own influence his influence onto the team too. So I want to say right now I'd probably give this like a 7, like 7.5. Like I think it's a solid average. Like I don't even know if I want to say average. I think it's a good move for them, but I'm not sure what to expect right now. I really loved his press conference. I think it was inspiring. It spoke on a lot of different levels. And as I said, if he's if he's learned from Belichick, he knows what how to coach like Belichick. But I think he's going to add his own style to it. So as long as there's a good mix, I could see some success for him. But at the same time, we know the track record of the Belichick coaching tree, so that's part of why I put it at about a 7.5. There's as much downside as there is upside, and obviously you can say that about any coach, but this is why I think it's like an average hire for me, because it's just there's a lot. He's right in the middle. There's a lot of ceiling, but there's also
we really don't even know where his floor is.
We don't.
We don't.
Because he's also only. I guess his floor would be pretty much staying the same and getting the 3rd overall draft pick again. Which as long as he doesn't get it like 2 years in a row. If he gets 2 years in a row, I don't know how long he'll last. But.
Well, to be fair, we don't even know if his floor is like 3 wins. Like that's the bare. Like getting the 3rd round pick is like the bare minimum.
The third overall pick.
Third round. A 3rd overall pick is minimum, but still, like we don't know if is he going to be more like Mike Vrabel, being a former player like under Bill Belichick, or if he's going, since he's also like under Belichick's coaching tree, which one is he going to be? Which one is who they haven't done well? Which one is he going to be? And around 7 out of 10, like that seems like the right grade for him. Which it sounds weird, like 7 out of 10 is a C, but like for a video game, that sounds like a perfectly good video game or anime. That's the score, like the minimum score I'm looking for to play, or what? Pretty much,
right? But it's a whole nother topic about grading and 70 being an average in the American education system.
Yes, there is problems there, but yeah, no. I mean, I think he'll be decent. I really don't want him to be, obviously, because of about rivalry, but
right. We can get into my rivals next. Anything else we want to add to? I like him. I like I said, I felt inspired by his speech, his press conference. So
I think he'll bring the right energy the team needs.
I do too. I really do.
I think it just depends on who they get for quarterback, and if he can get. And if him and the new I know they hired someone from the University of Miami who doesn't have a title yet for personnel, and Elliot Wolf is controlling the roster. And
as soon as they figure out
when they get the general, it depends on if they can get themselves better players, like better wide receivers, and get the quarterback. So they were able to get running backs. Honestly, he was able to get running backs and defense pretty good, Bill, but he wasn't able to get quarterback and weapons.
Well, but that's the thing. He always saw the talent in other places and brought them in. I mean, Wes Welker was a Dolphin before he was a Patriot, and then boom. I mean, well, I will say, like, I know everybody loves Julian Edelman, but he was just another. I think Wes and Danny Amendola, like, there were just talent out there too. A lot of it was Gronk, but it was about finding the right talent for what he was, what they schemed and stuff. So if I was gonna just say if that's the case, like just look at some of the free agents. I mean, and see what you can.
That's the problem. Without Tom Brady, you couldn't get the free agents to go there. Without finding the good quarterback, he wasn't able to get these guys to go play there. And he got the cast-offs of the Dolphins again, and they didn't turn out like they weren't as good as Wes Welker or with Devontae Parker. And I mean, Gesicki did pretty well, but they had like so many good tight ends there, but still needed better at the quarterback position.
But some of those guys are probably going to stay around because they're under contract, so we'll see what happens. intrigued about the quarterback situation, but it's like if they just grab a couple receivers, see what they get, it could be solid. Like honestly, it sounds crazy, but like I feel like Chase Claypool would have worked out in a Bill Belichick type,
Right.
Bill Belichick, Tom Brady type offense. I think they could have. I think I think it still might help both the Patriots and him get on track. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, Chase Claypool is an option. He is a free agent. So.
I'm not the hugest Chase Claypool fan, but he's one of those ones that feels like that cast off type wide receiver. So we'll see.
Anyone can make a resurgence as long as they're on the right team. Like Raheem Mostert's doing this. Had a fantastic season at 31 and on the Dolphins again.
Right. So I mean, he was never.
He wasn't really given a chance earlier in his.
Well,
season.
no, but he made Super Bowl. He had some good seasons.
It took him a while to get to the 49ers though.
Right.
So it might take a little while to get there. I mean, it took Alex Smith like I think his 8th year or something to be in a solid coach and stuff to become to get out of his slump. I think it took Andy Reid.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I was just saying I don't know if Raheem was a cast off when he went to the Dolphins, but he was.
I was saying he was a cast off in the beginning, not a cast off when the Dolphins got him. I meant a cast off in the beginning.
All right, so let's take a look around. Who else is that? Let's go. We'll go with Antonio Pierce because I thought that was a good move. I felt like the players wanted him, so the fact that the players wanted him, especially like Max Crosby was saying like I'll request a trade if they don't hire him. So like pretty big that's a pretty big deal maker right there to help him land the job. So I think it fits. They played for Antonio Pierce last season. I forget, is Tom Coughlin involved with the Raiders?
I forget.
Because I thought somebody was helping him at least maybe with
I thought it was Marvin Lewis.
Okay, maybe
he's a consultant with Antonio Pierce.
Which one, Marvin or
Tom Coughlin?
Okay, consultant. Okay, that makes more sense. Like
he's just consulting on the staff, not on.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I was gonna say like I wasn't sure if he was a consultant for the Raiders for the staff, but I know that he was just And honestly, I feel like that in my opinion is an actual good first move. I mean, learning from a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and I mean obviously your head coach, your former head coach too. So definitely helps you, be prepared and bring in the best staff that will fit what you want. And, like you said, consultant gig. So I think that's a win for Antonio Pierce right there. So especially since you need to work on that offense.
Yeah. Also, Marvin Lewis, both Marvin Lewis is like his assistant head coach.
Oh, good.
So yeah, they're both helping. One's helping with his staff. The other is going to help him with coaching.
And when you hire when you've got Tom Coughlin as a consultant and Marvin Lewis as a assistant head coach, those are two people that have gained like a lot of respect and they have knowledge of the game. So you're building out you're giving yourself and the Raiders are giving him like the best ability to win to get what he needs, especially as a first. I can't remember, like I'm wondering if it was like John Gruden the first time around, but like I know there's been it's been a while since we've had a first time head coach, I think, for the Raiders. So maybe
the one who's Dennis Allen, I thought it was.
Oh yeah, Dennis Allen. But if you're comparing Dennis Allen and even like I think it was Lane Kiffin too.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they're doing. Like honestly, that's an even better point. Like look at what they tried to do and look at the support that Antonio Pierce is getting. I mean, that speaks volumes for how much they like him to want to see him succeed.
Well, Mark Davis seeing success with his other with his other team, like I can't imagine him not. I feel like he's going to be a bit smarter than his father was at times. Like I think Al Davis, we all know, made questionable decisions for the longest time in drafting and stuff, and that Mark Davis is just trying to not repeat those those mistakes and is trying to do better. And because he wants the championship ways to be brought to Las Vegas. And hiring Antonio Pierce is like a lot of like I've seen like with stuff with like in the NFL and WWE that like stuff like it feels like hell's frozen over that like the Raiders did the smart move. It did the smart move here and stuff.
Right, it does feel like that. But I speak this as a not that as in the non-biased way about the as a Broncos fan, like as a Broncos fan, it's like damn, they did something confident. As a sports fan, I'm like, maybe they've got the right guy. It feels that way. So I'm excited for our division because like we got, unfortunately Antonio Pierce is like at the bottom as far as like he's got to prove himself in the in the division, but like everybody else like the rest of the division, like this is a tough division for just head coaches alone. So it definitely got I think it's got like top head coaching prospect, like top head coaches right there, probably there, and then that's it right now. Because unless is there anything else we want to add to Antonio Pierce? I'm happy for him.
Yeah, I don't think honestly, I don't think he's the bottom hire because
I just mean in the division. Like he's at
in the division.
He's in the AFC West. He's at the bottom because of everybody else right now in that division. That division going to be tough. So
well, I mean, they have some strong. If they keep some of the strong weapons on defense and get more offensive weapons and he gets more of them out of it, I feel like just because of how much they have and not sure about it, Jim Harbaugh might be on paper a better coach because of all the stuff in Michigan. But I feel Antonio Pierce might be higher than him just because I think the Raiders are built better right now.
Well, I'm just speaking as a head coach, at the head coaching position. But the team wise, the Chargers are at the bottom right now. They did come in fourth. They've got a lot of salary cap issues. A lot of players aren't going to be there that were here last year, so it's going to be tough. But the difference with like Jim Harbaugh is he'll have like 3 years, like not even going to worry. Like you look at Michigan, first 2 years they couldn't beat Ohio State, so it's a process. And Jim's gonna have some time on that one. So
I mean, well, I'm pretty good with Antonio Pierce, and what I want to say actually is about Jim Harbaugh. So should we
in a second? I just wanted to say, I feel like this is like an 8.5. I'd say like 8.5. Like I really like the hire. 8 feels right. Like I like it. It's solid. I think there's a lot of upside, and they came in second, and they have again, maybe this is where the 8.5. So maybe 8.25 might be the best way to go. Split the difference and say that since he was there as head coach for like more than half a season, Antonio Pierce is probably one of the biggest steps up as far as new head coaches to everybody else. Yeah, especially first time head coaches going into this the 2024 season.
Well, this is going to sound very weird. Randomly overall, I'll probably say like he's an 8, maybe 8.5 as a like you as a coaching hire. But randomly, honestly, I feel like he's a 10 out of 10 for a coaching hire because for the Raiders specifically, because this is exactly who you should have hired. This is exactly who you needed to hire for the Raiders. There was no one else better for the Raiders. So in hindsight, I might be proven wrong, but at this moment, right now, it is the most perfect choice, and he's an absolutely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, honestly, I can give you that. I will give you that. I can agree with that. Like maybe he is the best hire. He is probably the best hire with Jim Harbaugh. Honestly, because for the situation, I think you're right. So
I don't think anyone was more like you said Max Crosby was going to leave. If you don't hire him, players wanted him there. You screwed up the first time not hiring the interim head coach that all the players liked, and now you actually do this time. And I said hell froze over. I can't legitimately say you did the right choice and then grade him lower than perfect. It's like it's a circle hole with the circle peg.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Now let's go. I think that's good enough for. I think that's good for, on Antonio Pierce. Now let's get back to Jim Harbaugh. And really dive into this one.
Yeah. So basically, what I was trying to say was comparing about Antonio Pierce to Jim Harbaugh is that I know you said about that he's been given 3 years. Just remember, before he went to Michigan, or like after the 49ers and stuff, those last few years with the 49ers weren't great. I think like a lot of people I think tend to forget that because of he made it to the Super Bowl with them, but afterwards, like, there was a lot of stuff with Colin Kaepernick not doing great, and like the team, and he kind of lost the locker room a little bit. So, but he is coming back off of a hot streak, so he might, come in hot.
Well, but I mean, there's a difference, salary cap and a lot of different things. So, but I still think if anybody's going to get if anybody's really going to get the best out of Justin Herbert, it's going to be Jim Harbaugh right now, with the exception of maybe Eric Bieniemy. I really can't tell you that. I mean, obviously doesn't have a head coaching job right now. So yeah, I like this. I mean, you talked about Antonio Pierce. Like, I don't know what I can give. I feel like this was the one that like made the most sense. If I'm a fan of the Chargers, I'm just like, yes, thank you. We got rid of, like we got somebody who can at least come in, and I feel like should be able to do what Sean Payton did and get rid of that stink.
Right. I mean, he should be able to help the culture, which should hopefully help out Justin Herbert. I'm not for sure on Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator, because I mean, did he just not work well with Lamar?
Well, I think there's a limit to. I think maybe it's like kind of Greg Roman might be limited. I forget if he was anywhere before Baltimore and after San Francisco. If you can check that out for me. But I remember his time in San Francisco. Like he was the one that he went to the Super Bowl there too, right? Like he went to the Super Bowl under
with Jim
the Niners and helped Lamar get the unanimous MVP. Because yes, you have to give some credit to the rest of the team too. Like the MVP does go to Lamar, but it does help having that a coach that can.
He was with the Bills
That's who I thought he was. But Lamar, he deserves some credit for getting Lamar off the ground. I think he can get Justin Herbert to another level, and depending on the play calling, there might and who's available, it might be another offensive coordinator in a few years. So we'll see what happens.
Right, like I think he can help Justin Herbert, but I don't know if he can push Justin Herbert all the way, to his max potential, because it seems like he pushed Lamar, and got Lamar to a high level, but now it seems like Lamar is playing even better,
and that's fine. That's great, but sometimes we need we need that first guy to take us to new levels, and then the next guy to go beyond those levels. But I think Jim's gonna. I'm not gonna be surprised if they struggle the first season, mostly from that salary cap issues and honestly, the Chargers wide receivers are injury prone, so we'll see what happens there.
Right, what are you going to do? Like, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, your top two guys, are injury prone, and Quentin Johnston is having catch issues.
All right, we'll see. Hopefully Johnston can develop, so we'll see from there. We'll see about Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and I mean, if they want to resign Eckler, so we'll see what happens. But if I'm a Chargers fan, I'm excited. As a Broncos fan, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be a tough division, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, it should better be a better season for the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, because they are going to be up in arms if it's worse, unless anything happens to Herbert. But if Herbert's not helping you do well, then you're gonna have.
Well, hopefully they invest in the O-line.
Right.
Like I think Corey Linsley, or whatever, their center. I don't know if he's gonna come back. I know they had some offensive line stuff. So I'm just interested to see where they just need to improve that line, and that will help significantly so he doesn't get injured. And then we'll just get. But I'm here. I still think I still love Sean Payton, despite the Russell Wilson stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So the Chargers with their their general manager is from the Ravens. So Joe Ortiz.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention that with Antonio Pierce, they hired the Chargers for former GM Tom Telesco. So like I like that move with Antonio Pierce. You kind of get a veteran GM and somebody who can get you pieces. Hopefully he can coach them well, because that was the problem with the Chargers. But can you check about, was it Corey Linsley?
Yeah, what about him?
Is he still going to be with? I don't know.
I forget if he's going to retire or not.
Yeah, but as far as you can let me know. I was gonna just say with Chargers.
Doesn't mention anything about if he's staying or going.
Oh, okay. I don't know, how old is he?
32.
So like, it wouldn't surprise me if he retires. But he's like, this is going to be a really interesting offseason for them, what they're going to do with the players, and I'm really interested to see how this division goes. So would not be surprised if we get Sean Payton versus Jim Harbaugh, like Monday Night Football type thing. So
right,
like one of the primetime games, I should say.
Right, yeah, I just
in week 1 or at least week 2 possibly.
It does, yeah. The future does look bright for the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. I mean, you gotta like when like former players of the team come back, be like coaches, and he did it for Michigan, that he's going to hope to do for the Chargers.
Right, and like that was his last team, I think, the Chargers.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he'd like the Chargers to be his last like professional, stay there a while, win a championship. I don't think that's gonna happen, or at least not for a while if it does. So but I still like this as much as like Antonio Pierce. Like, it feels like the right guy for the right quarterback and the right team. So now the rest of these, I'm unsure. First, I guess I don't hate any of these moves. I do question about the Bill Belichick, and Atlanta thing, but I know a lot of people were speaking for Raheem Morris. Feels like it's a good fit. He hasn't been a head coach in like 10 years. He was very young. He was probably young and wasn't ready for it when he did, and it's gonna be interesting to see how it goes, because honestly, I mean, since he was a head coach, he's now like coached the offense and the defense, so he knows both sides of the ball now. And they feel like they were a quarterback away, and the fact that they got the 8th overall pick, I wouldn't be surprised if they either try and trade up or try and trade for Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields would be amazing in Atlanta.
Yeah, Justin Fields, I think, would definitely help Atlanta. I think it would be a good fit to have a players coach like that. If Chicago decides to trade him, which everyone's expecting them to, but I don't know if Caleb Williams doesn't want to go to the Bears. It's like, so you're picking hoping like the second best guy or something. As long as you get multiple draft picks out of trying to, if you're going to pull something like Eli Manning or some trade like that, if you get more out of it, then yeah, definitely trade Justin Fields. But Atlanta really does feel like just a quarterback away with the type of weapons they have, and as long as Raheem Morris actually uses weapons like Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Well, he definitely learned. I definitely feel he learned a lot from Sean McVay, and he is going to be. He's not going to waste their potential like Arthur Smith did. So like this one, like Arthur Smith was just such a dud. Like this one's like fantastic in comparison. So like I'm gonna give this like a solid 8. I like it. Like I like it. I don't know. Like I know there were some struggles with the defense when he was as defensive coordinator, but that doesn't take away from him knowing how to lead people and knowing both sides of the ball. So and I only say that because I know Ethan wasn't really happy with him all the time. But I've warmed up to I like it, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think I'd give him about like between a 7 or an 8. Like I think it's a good strong hire, and also I think I'm going to I'd give Jim Harbaugh a 9 because I don't know if I graded him myself.
Yeah,
but no, an 8, about like I'm with you with an 8 seems about right. It seems like a good hire for the Ravens. And we're still not sure what he exactly is as a head coach because of how he was during his last time, but we can't really hold that against him anymore.
I don't really want to hold that against him because it's been like 10 years. Longer than that.
So, and lots of coaches do better in their second time around. second time around as a head coach, as long as your name's not Josh McDaniels.
Right? I mean, that's the only.
I don't think he learned anything from the first time to the second time of being a head coach. So as long as Raheem Morris learned more how to be a head coach and stuff and has the right support team with him, I think they will be fine.
Oh, longer than 10 years. He got hired about 15 years ago, honestly. That, when he was like 30, about 32-ish. It was 2009, so he's 47 now, so 32 sounds about right. And now he's 47, and he worked from like, he got fired in 2011, so. And then he went to work under Mike Shanahan and Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan, and McVay. So like, I feel like he learned a lot when you look at that, look at where he's come from. So
I think he also has good coordinators, getting Zach Robinson and Jimmy Lake from taking them from the Rams with him. They both look good, so I think they'll be in good hands, and just need to once they get the right pieces. Since like the NFC South is really kind of wide open.
Yeah.
And if the two teams with new coaches do well, and the teams that kept their old coaches don't, then
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens with them,
but I was gonna say, like, let's talk about I think Raheem's a good one. I don't know a lot about Dave Canales except for the fact that he was the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, and really I feel like Baker did a lot with him, and he did a lot for Baker. Like, he really helped Baker get on track, and Baker had a solid year, Pro Bowl and Pro Bowl MVP. So
what was it? Canales comes from Seattle, and he was the quarterbacks coach and became the passing game coordinator, and then the quarterbacks coach. And basically, Gino and Russ and Baker had their best seasons under him.
That's part of why he got the job. Yeah. Now, when you listen to all of that, this is probably one of the sneaky under the radar good hires. And I'm gonna put it around the same as like the rest. There's honestly no bad hires here. It's like I think I put it about 8, and same thing with the other most of the rest. And we could come back and say this could be like the perfect hire for 10 if he gets Bryce Young soaring high and flying, like doing stuff he never did before. So
yeah, Canales, what was it? Like, he wanted he like when he joined, like he helped the Seahawks win the Super Bowl and stuff, and he's been there since then, basically. Helping out, and yeah, I think he is one of the sneaky good hires. I think his only problem might be the ownership of it. But as long as they get him if they get him the pieces he needs, I feel like he should be fine. They should be able to be successful, and I think he might be one of the best head coaches coming out of this season. He feels like a definite kind of like Mike McDaniel type, the help the quarterback succeed type of hire.
Yeah. The only he's a real wait and see. I feel like he's the one that the only I know where
I just wanted to say that it definitely incredibly helps them that they kept Ejiro Evero as the defensive coordinator.
I guess why we're on offensive coordinators getting a job and stuff. The one that I don't know, I felt like this is a weird one, was Brian Callahan for me. Like, not that he's bad. I don't know. I don't know how much of a role he really played with the Bengals winning. I know he was the offensive coordinator, but Joe Burrow's a big piece. Zach Taylor's, it feels like, a bigger piece than we realized. So we're gonna see, was he an important piece? Like, how good is he? I think the potential is there, but if I'm being right now, for me, just not sure where to place him. Thinking I want to give him 7, maybe 7.5. It's weird because it's like I don't feel like Vrabel should have got fired. I know they were, there was a lot of changing talent and stuff. So I don't know how much I like this move. Like, including when I think about when I take in some of these grades, I think I've also been thinking about, like, of the teams that needed to move on, this was the team that didn't. I don't think needed to move on. And there was one other team I think I'm also gonna place that with too. So
well, I think a 7 is a fine grade for him because he's a big unknown. The question is he the reason why there is so much success in Cincinnati, or are they going to suck without him? Because I've said for years I didn't believe in Zach Taylor, and they turned it around. But was it really him? Because I saw funny enough, Brian Callahan's has a Super Bowl win under his belt. He was on the Broncos when they won, and I didn't realize he was also the son of Bill Callahan.
Ooh, yeah, I've not heard good. I've looked into that.
Well, randomly, I don't understand. He didn't have much of a coaching career. I looked at Bill Callahan's coaching career. First year with the Raiders, made it to the Super Bowl. Second year sucked, gone.
The lot of locker room stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Callahan's actually the offensive line coach of the Titans.
Yeah, I heard he's a good offensive line coach, but
I mean, he was the Browns offensive line coach last season. So I think they'll be, if he's the reason why Joe Burrow is succeeding, then Will Levis I think will do great under him. I just don't understand why you get rid of Mike Vrabel.
Yeah,
it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind as much as you got rid of AJ Brown.
Well, and I think that was the last.
That was the last GM. So.
Yeah, well, and he got fired for it. But honestly, I think that's kind of thing I think they want to see about becoming a offensive team, because everybody. Well, I can't say everybody's gone offensive, because DeMeco Ryans is not an offensive head coach, and and there's a lot of good defenses in that division. So there's a lot of potential. Like they play we all say about the AFC North plays defense. Like they play their own style of football in that division. So it's we could look at the divisional football. They have one of the unique styles. I don't want to say for a while it was there was bad football, but when you really look at it, there's blanking on the word, but there's the slow pace, there's a heavy defense, run game gets involved because of the running backs you've got in that division. So that's been the last 5 years or so.
Right. So the
slow and patient, the matriculating down the field type,
hard-nosed football.
Kind of, yeah.
They've always been kind of hard-nosed. They always kind of play the brutal football. That's why they always have a ton of teams in the playoffs. They have a ton of teams that keep making it further because they play the most physical football.
Outside of the North, yeah. Outside of the AFC North, yeah. I definitely feel like they play a lot of physical football there.
We weren't talking about the AFC North? My bad.
But no, I was talking about the AFC South, because we're on them.
Yeah. I thought we were talking about where he came from.
No. I was talking about the Titans, the Titans and the Colts have. They've had a strong run game for the last 5 years.
Yeah, Well, that's why my context of them having multiple playoff teams only makes sense when we're talking about the AFC North.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the South. The North plays some of the toughest. I think the South plays a unique style of football amongst themselves, very close to the North. I don't think it gets talked about like the North does. But if you really watch that, it used to be kind of up. There was the bottom of the barrel because you only had one team really winning the division for a while. But the last couple of years, you can see some of the fighting inside of the division.
The only thing I could see is that maybe I don't know if Vrabel lost the locker room or the front office people thought he was too intimidating.
It was the front office. It was the GM stuff.
But maybe they honestly just saw that maybe they just didn't believe that he could keep up with the new blood in the AFC South, especially after Steichen and Ryans and Peterson increased each of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the Jaguars, went downhill a bit, but because of reasons. But all 3 of those teams, this division is tougher than it looks, and it's tougher than it has been. Maybe they just need it, or they wanted newer blood, because everyone's hiring these offensive-minded head coaches. Not everyone, but the young offensive-minded head coaches are getting to the playoffs more, getting to the Super Bowls more. We have Kyle Shanahan again. We had Zach Taylor and Sean McVay make it.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni. I don't know what Nick Sirianni is. But I forget what kind of coach he was. And I
didn't know we were talking about Nick Sirianni when we're talking about the.
No. I was mentioning about head coaches making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Okay. They had such a bad year. I forgot Super Bowl last year.
But okay, yeah, no, he was an offensive. Yeah. Nick Sirianni was an offensive coordinator too, so he was another offensive head coach. And so it's just the offensive-minded head coaches, even Andy Reid. Andy Reid's these guys are getting to the Super Bowl. The offensive-minded people.
Well, we'll see. We'll we'll see how it goes in the long run. But I'm interested to see what Ryan Callahan does. I'd say like right now, I think a 7.25 maybe. But
I don't.
we'll see. All right, I think we can move on. I think we're good with Ryan Callahan. I think the next person I'd like to talk about would be Mike McDonald.
Mac McDonald.
Right. Want to know why I want to talk about him? Because young McDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. On this farm, he had some Seahawks, and he is the youngest head coach.
with whatever noise the Seahawk makes,
like a caw there, caw there. I don't know. Bird sound here, bird sound there.
Some squawk, caw, whatever.
Yeah, but what? Youngest head coach in the NFL.
Yep.
How old is he again?
36.
Okay.
I think Antonio. I forget if it was one of these. I think it was one of these others we mentioned. Got hired, was the youngest head coach at 37, and then McDonald got hired and beat him afterwards.
Was it Brian Callahan or?
Nope, not Brian Callahan. Oh, it was Gerard Mayo.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so now McDonald is the youngest head coach, and I'll just say right off the bat, I don't know how I feel about it. In all due respect to Pete Carroll, because they didn't fire Pete Carroll, they just like moved him up. I don't know if he was ready to move up. If okay, he didn't have the greatest season last year, but it wasn't horrible. I don't know. Like, I know he's a defensive head coach, and the defense wasn't great, but like I think they kind of jumped a year ahead when they made it to the playoffs last season. And I don't know, I guess I would have liked to have seen him have like, say, hey, this is my final season coming up, I'm ready to retire after this year, kind of a farewell tour type thing. I feel like he deserved it. Like he definitely reinvigorated, and I mean, you can say greatest head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and Pete Carroll. So I think it's some big shoes to follow. I don't know. I'm wondering if they're just gonna I don't know if he wanted to retire or go to another team. I wonder if we'll see him back again or not, in the same sense of like a Sean Payton like move, or somebody trade for him next season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I don't know how many of the teams are going to be like with Bill Belichick. I don't know how many teams are going to be like interested or excited to hire like two of the oldest head coaches.
I thought they were the two oldest head coaches.
Yeah, and like,
well, to be fair, the only reason that you're doing that is that you've got your team complete and ready to go, and they only need another, the coach is like the missing piece. Like, quite honestly, Buffalo, Philly, and Dallas felt like three of the teams that they are three of the teams I'm surprised they didn't get their head coach fired. And that they weren't like, well, these guys have won before. Our division, I mean, when Buffalo is like, we just won our division. Why can't we do it again and just get this guy who can get us over the top in either of those two head coaches?
Right? Like, if they were both defensive head coaches, like, I think they might do better than like Sean McDermott. Just like, if you keep Joe Brady and you just insert someone new who can run a better defense, probably. And Bill Belichick, if he can do anything like he could do like with New England's defense, which was one of the toughest to play, even though they struggled on offense, they were still a tough defense to play. I think the Bills would be more successful then.
Well, I think that there could have been an agreement when they say like mutually parted ways. It could have been like, Bill might have been like, no, I want one more season, and he was like, no, but it's like, I want to move on with the team, but we won't fire you, but you just, like, we'll make it a gracious exit, but you just can't go to Buffalo or something like that. And maybe, you get a call, somebody said, like, maybe it was one of those calls where it's like, no, I can't go to Buffalo. But, like, either of those guys, I could have seen doing fine in those three spots that I mentioned. They are literally I feel like they're I don't know about Nick Sirianni. I don't know about Mike McCarthy because of where they ended up this year, especially after Dallas had such a great year. So I could have seen that. Especially, I could have seen if he. I don't know if Pete Carroll would have just been like do what you got to do, Jerry. But I want to, like let me coach the team. Like all I care about. So maybe a possibility it just wouldn't have worked out with either of them in any of those places. But if I had to take a bet, like Dallas would have been the least likely spot for either of those two. But I still wish Pete Carroll would have got a farewell like tour kind of thing. Who knows if they will go back and if he wants to coach again. Maybe it was his decision because he's moving up. I mean, if he wanted to I don't know if he wanted to get out of the Seahawks and wouldn't they have just fired him? I don't know. Like I'd love to know. Like wouldn't he have just walked away or something? So a lot of interesting questions to say the least as far as as far as the Seahawks go. Now get back on track with Mike McDonald. I mean he had a great defense in Baltimore, so I can definitely see a player or two wanting to leave to go play for him from Baltimore, and I can definitely see I can definitely see players just wanting to play for him in general, and we'll see how much the Baltimore defense is without him. Like he felt like he was he felt like he was like next level. Like I'm happy with if Pete Carroll wanted to go out on his own, like this was a good coaching hire.
They lost, like the Ravens lost 3 defensive coaches, so they might lose players to all 3 of those teams.
Who knows for sure? But you're right.
I forget where I think it was like Zach Orr or something. I forget where he went.
I thought one went to Titans.
It might be it, and I know Anthony Weaver went to the Dolphins. Mike McDonald went to the Seahawks, and they all could use defensive pieces. But the Seahawks actually haven't hired an offensive or defensive coordinator yet.
Oh wow!
So I noticed on there it says empty for them on theirs, and that might be a good place for Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, I can see it. There's definitely a lot of openings. I don't know who. I don't know if it was the Titans one. I'm trying to figure out where the third person went. But besides that, I think that it's going to be interesting to see where, because they got a lot.
Oh, my bad.
What?
Zach Orr didn't leave. He got promoted by the Ravens.
Oh, okay.
Zach Orr was a lower coach that took over for Mike McDonald.
I was going to say the Titans defensive coordinator, I think he got he left. The Giants wanted him, so that was why I'm remembering that one.
Mm-hmm.
I think they hired him in the same position. But as far like Seahawks got a lot of talent, so we'll see what they do. I would love, I think Eric Bieniemy would be great there. I think there's a lot of good potential to be had, and we'll see.
And Leslie Frazier is the assistant head coach or assistant or coaching assistant for Mike McDonald. I think helps him a lot.
I think it was assistant head coach. Yeah. And he's the DC, isn't he?
Assistant head coach does not say anything about defensive work.
Oh, okay. Usually you do both, or maybe he does something else besides assistant head coach. We'll see.
Right. I mean, he was assistant head coach and defensive coordinator for the Bills, but we'll see.
But other. I think there's a lot of ceiling for him. So I'd be happy to say 8.5, 8.5, 8 to 8.5, somewhere in there.
His defense was he proved his defense the last few years in the Ravens. I think the Seahawks have a lot of good defense pieces. They are going to be good defensively. Offensively, that is up in the air because I don't know who the coordinator is going to be to determine to like help. And are they going to stick with Geno Smith or are they going to go otherwise?
Right. Honestly, I could say this move might even be a 9.
McDonald is I think a quality hire. Like I think he's one of the best hires like of the staff. I don't know if I would put.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the best decision by the team, but he's a really good hire.
Right. Like it's just from the coach and the possibility of what he can do. Like I said, he's got a high ceiling. So so I like it for I guess a situation that they. They had or made themselves. So we'll see what happens. That's really all I gotta say about that. I don't even know. It's like 8 or 9. It's a tough one.
8.5. Split the difference.
Yeah, 8.5 feels
8.75. Right. If you feel a little more higher to it.
No, 8.5 feels right. Like it's a solid. It's not an 8. It feels like an 8, but that's because of who they got rid of. It's like, but also at the same time, it's like because of the whole everything. 8.5 because there's a lot about a. Yeah. All right, so I think we'll stick with the 8.5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's like none of these coaches are bad. Like I don't feel like terrible. Like honestly, I would have given the Raiders like I think I would have given them a 0 on Josh McDaniel just because his track record with the Broncos and the fact that they would have they didn't hire Rick Bisaccia back when they could have.
0 was absolutely right with how well they did.
So like I know this might sound like I'm giving everybody like 7.5 to 8.5, but
we're basing it on their potential, and they all seem to have high potential,
right? Like I like all of these coaches. Like they for the most part,
even Brian Callahan at face value, I wasn't sure, but if he's the entire reason for Joe Burrow's success, then
but that's yet to be seen. So,
and that's really why he's like one of the lower end ones. But his potential, if he is that, is through the roof. Like the ceiling, it's a really high ceiling for him.
Yeah. What else? And with that, we got Dan Quinn in Washington, and supposedly, Ben Johnson, they were on the way to Detroit to interview him or like finalize it or something, and he decided against it. I think he wanted to finish up. He wants to win the Super Bowl with the Lions. I think.
2 reasons.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the reasons. The other reason is I heard that he said he didn't like the ownership and said because they were like basketball. And he just didn't like the vibes of that.
Okay. Hey, I think he's entitled to that opinion, and I think that's a fair reason. And they are basketball. I think they own
the 76ers.
Yeah, and I forget who what else he owned. Josh Harris, but
look at the 76ers. Look at the 76ers. Haven't won anything. Like you have one of the best players with Joel Embiid, but so I don't know how it's going to go with the Commanders for him. But I hope you're better. Just be better than Dan Snyder, and you're just being not Dan Snyder. You're better than him,
right? He also owned. I mean, the 76ers are not like a badly run organization.
No, they're good, but they haven't won.
Yeah. He also own. He's also part owner, I guess, or he's managing partner of the New Jersey Devils too. So
they're all good teams, but I haven't had championship success.
Right? The Devils, I think, were in the playoffs last year. I think. Yeah, they were in the playoffs last year. They made it to the second round. So the New Jersey Devils. So they got the potential to
they
be
have the potential to just they just need to prove it.
Right. I mean, they feels like they know how to run a team, but if he didn't get the right vibes, didn't like how it was, what was told to him to run the team, that's his right. And I think he'll still get another job in the next year or two.
I think he really wants. If you can get the Lions to win a Super Bowl, that goes go down forever. No matter unless you're going to a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl, like the Commanders have won a Super Bowl. So if you got the Commanders back to a Super Bowl, sure, it would be a great moment and would be history, but it wouldn't be a monumental moment, like a first of one of a kind moment of the Lions finally win the Super Bowl and you're part of that history.
I get it, but I also can see a few other teams next season or two that I could see him being with and having that kind of success too. If he outside of Detroit, if he does want to leave. So I don't want to say any. Yeah, I could see him with Philly. I could see him with Dallas. I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the hot seat, but I could definitely see him in Chicago or.
Well, I mean, Eberflus needs to do they need to get this right with his pick and stuff. But
I could also see him in New Orleans too. But there's a lot of places I could see him. So it's
Panthers better not be looking for another head coach next year,
right? I don't think he'd go there.
I don't think if you hire another head coach this soon within the next 2 years, between this year and next year,
it's gonna be hard to get a head coach.
No one's gonna go there unless you're gonna have to hire a lower guy who really wants it, someone
the Josh McDaniels might get another chance just because somebody like that.
Because you're just not going to get people to want to go there.
But back on the Dan Quinn, I totally get Ben Johnson, and it makes sense to me. And if you want to say Dan Quinn's the second choice, like there were a lot of people just like Raheem Morris wanting him. Speaking volumes and saying, especially in the division, like he's great. So that I think that holds a lot of water or a lot of weight to these teams. And I thought he was a fine head coach. I mean, I think as long as he gets the right offensive coordinator, I forget who they just hired. Cliff Kingsbury.
Yes, Cliff Kingsbury. He basically lives or dies by like his offensive coordinator. Most defensive head coaches do. But I remember you had Kyle Shanahan and you had like the best offensive team there, and then you went to like Steve Sarkisian, who was not good at the time. I think he's better now in college, but he needed like that boost in playing college. But Steve Sarkisian like sucked with Matt Ryan, and just like everything collapsed downhill after the Super Bowl for Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn he knows the Cowboys defense. Like, you might even be able to get people to go there, but like I think now, granted, I don't know if they're granted. I feel like since they got Cliff Kingsbury, they'll get Caleb Williams, and Caleb with the Commanders. I feel like they have a lot of weapons offensively, so I think the Commanders will be in a good place to move up in the rankings.
Oh yeah, we'll see who they pick quarterback. If they try and move up for Caleb, we'll see a lot of things. But as far as the Dan Quinn hiring, I think there's a lot of potential. He made it to the Super Bowl. 8.5 sounds right.
Yeah.
Most of these are, like I've said in almost a lot of these, they all feel like good hires. Some of them are great. Some of them have the potential to be great. The only one I'm like, some of them I'm worried about. Like, not everybody's. Some of these guys are probably going to be fired because not every team. Only one team can win the Super Bowl.
Only one team,
and only 14 teams can make the playoffs.
There is only one winner every season in football, and that's just what it is. There's one. I mean, you can say you've won in certain areas, but if you don't win the big one, you're not a winner. And like every year, there are coaches that get fired for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and especially this year, we learned
last couple of years have been kind of crazy. Last few years, honestly, I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, there's been some crazy ones.
Like Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel just did not expect that.
Right,
those teams looking for head coaches here. But I mean, I know there was the year that you fired John Fox for Gary Kubiak because John Fox couldn't get it done.
Well, I mean, we lost twice in the divisional round under him. Only made one Super Bowl where we had the potential to win. Should have won at least 2 or 3.
Yeah,
with Peyton and that defense and that offense. But we lost to the Colts and the Ravens, and the Ravens went on to win the Super Bowl. That should have been us. And without one, I think it was Raheem Morris. That one, the defensive back that made that got beat.
Raheem Moore.
Yeah, Raheem
Morris is the one.
Yeah, I know I said it wrong once I said it. But they were both around the same time, so it was, Raheem Morris, good, or no problem with Raheem Morris as far as the Broncos. Raheem Moore, he got beat, and the Ravens tied up the game and then won that game, so he definitely goes down as one of the biggest Broncos disappointments.
Right now, I think he played in the XFL last year.
So let's think. I think that's about it. I don't know if I have anything else on Dan Quinn. It's really going to be about the draft and see how that goes.
Right. It really depends on these teams with the new quarterbacks. Like with the first 3 picks, like I know the Bears didn't change their head coach, but that's going to determine I feel that might change the landscape of the NFL. And it's always fun how you can how the landscape of the NFL changes from year to year.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully a new AFC East champion, as we should have been last season, but this season for the Dolphins.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about Mike Vrabel and the Titans.
Right.
I mean, I think you still got to worry about the Titans.
We still have to worry about the Titans, but you don't have to worry about Mike Vrabel.
Well, with that, I think we'll end it here.
Yep.
All right, and we'll talk about some of the others. We'll talk about the NBA, the Super Bowl, some other, a couple other things going on this last week and coming up and all that. We'll probably also do some kind of combine, prepare for the draft in the next couple months, and go from there. But we'll definitely be talking about some WNBA news and just all the other sports, because I know I've said it for a while, but we are more than football, and now we're running out of football. So
right, you will hear more from us rather than when the NFL Network struggles for content during the off season.
Yep. Even though we'll talk about some of the football stuff anyways.
Oh yeah, we're not going to stop.
Nope. All right.
UFL podcasts.
Probably. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe, give us some feedback. There's something you want to hear us talk about, let us know. Thank you for joining us on our head coaching, new head coaches for 2024, the NFL. And we'll see you here next time. Thank you for joining us once again, and bye.